moral victories and silver linings, right? Moral victories, silver linings, but come on, those are defeats really by any other name. Well, it wasn't as bad as I thought, as if our point of reference was only ever going to be some other misery. Or, ooh, man, it could have been so much worse, because you've heard. Turn on the news, open the paper, listen to a friend, it could get far, far worse, or maybe my most guilty. Well, the good news is that it's over, which is a fine perspective, I guess, for root canals. But little else. Wasn't as bad as I thought. It could have been worse. It's over. Moral victory, silver linings. Is that the best you and I can hope for these days? Now, I've said all those things lately. I've thought all of those things at least more than once. I'm out here trying my best to find some sort of consolation prize, some kind of participant ribbon for making it to the end of whatever this week's thing is, whatever it is or was or this. It can seem that every rose is nothing but thorns. And it can seem that we've been given so many lemons that we've just simply lost our taste for lemonade. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with folks whose only bright spot exists in going through what they're going through is that they know it's not as bad as somebody else has it. Yeah, my house was destroyed last night, but my neighbor down the street lost his house and his garage, so I can't complain. Or what I hear more than that is, actually I don't ever hear someone talking about their house being destroyed, but what I do hear is when I visit folks in the hospitals, routinely they'll say, well, my surgery was 8 hours long, but the lady next 2 doors down here on this ward, hers was 10 hours, so I got off lucky. My dad, as many of you know, prayed for him when he had his open heart surgery. The surgeon good enough to come out and find me before Dad went under. He finds me before the procedure. At one point, he goes through his shtick about assuring me of his skills. I appreciate it. He tells me that he will do himself 125 of these procedures that year. Wow, I remember thinking that, thanks, Doc, but all I know now is there are 124 other folks who are going to be in the same position as my dad. His surgery goes well. Those other 124 folks are in good hands. If you need a cardiothoracic surgeon recommendation for Palm Springs, California, let me know. Those 124 folks are in good hands on what may be the worst day of their lives. Now Dad is moved to the cardiac ICU. I speak to the nurse who will be in charge of him overnight. Good luck, Godspeed, I tell her. Wonderful woman, absolutely skilled at talking to families, at talking to people like me. She reassures me, Dad is in good hands, tells me, go back to your Airbnb, get a good night's sleep. They'll call me if anything goes sideways, if anything goes the way it should not. She tells me, go home, get some sleep, and remember, in the intensive care, no news is good news. Good news can be hard to come by, right? 125 open heart surgeries offered as a comfort. The mechanic tells me, oh yeah, we rebuild like 2 or 3 transmissions a week around here. Super. Right before Christmas, literally December 23rd, I think, the cooktop on our stove dies. After the holidays, the appliance guy comes over, does his due diligence, finds the problem, takes his hat in his hands practically and says, I'm sorry, there's nothing else we can do. The stove cannot be saved, he says. Frigidaire does not make the parts anymore. He's conciliatory, trying to offer comfort. He knows what it means. I try to make lemonade out of this whole ordeal. So I find myself staring at this man saying, well, at least we know what's wrong. And there's nothing we can do to replace it. They teach you in seminary not to do what I'm doing right now and making myself the guinea pig of this whole story. I don't know about you. I find it necessary so more and more often these days to be like those gold mining prospectors who are out there trying to pan out the good news like flakes of gold out of the rocky muddiness of just what is the complete and total abundance of the bad news. Is it just me? Am I alone? Kate and I got the bill from the plumber. We were both surprised that it wasn't higher. Hooray! Have you been in a place like that before? Gluten-free bread is on sale at Metro Market. It's usually $8 a loaf. Let that sink in. Now it's about $5.50. Hooray! We go to the store. The shelves are bare. All gone. Oh, no, wait, this is good news, we tell ourselves, because at least it went on sale. Have you ever done something like this? You know, the mail service postage here at church is unpredictable. In fact, Gary told me today that despite mailbox being over there, somebody crammed the mail into a crevice by the glass doors, by a CC&S. You know, sometimes our carrier comes in the morning, like first thing in the morning, and sometimes it doesn't seem like this person is around for days, and I'm not being hyperbolic, literally for days. I mentioned this to Cindy in the office. You know, Cindy, I don't think the mail's been picked up for a while, I say. The first thing out of both of our lips is how much we miss our old mail carrier. Oh, but that's okay, Cindy tells me. That's okay. There wasn't anything important to be picked up. And if there was, oh, I could just take it to the drop box on the way home. I know my examples are like little splinters. They're like annoyances compared to the ways of the world for so many. I recognize that. You recognize that. Most of us can see the privilege in the midst of our problems. Oh no, my stove is broken beyond repair. I need to replace it. I can't go without. But now my biggest hassle is I have to choose a replacement out of like the 10,000 different kinds. And I have to get it delivered. And I have to get it installed. And I have to get the busted one hauled away. Oh no. But to the one who does not have a stove, who can't afford to replace the one they have, my story does not get or deserve even an ounce of sympathy. And so I wonder, friends, if you and I gain anything substantive or anything actually real when we undersell the struggles we're going through, when we dismiss what's bad news, the bad news that we received by when we comparing it to all those that are ailing around us. I wonder if we've become so desensitized to the bad news and so used to its presence in the news in the neighborhood that it will become our only frame of reference. In other words, I wonder if we become so completely used to the bad news uniting us, that the shared experience gathering us, that the communal suffering bonding us like it did during the pandemic, when we all agreed that we needed to work for each other and we were all in this together. I wonder if we've just lost the trail of that which truly unites us, which is the good news we have, and not the bad. Our passage today, Jesus in the synagogue, teaching for the first time after his baptism. He's surrounded by neighbors and friends. He's accustomed to them. And they're accustomed to him. They grew up around the same hills and the same valleys and knew life under the same thumb of Rome. They lived in different households, but they had common bonds of what life is like for them nowadays. And Jesus reads the scroll. He turns exactly to this passage in the prophet Isaiah: release to the captive, sight to the blind, freedom of the oppressed, the year of the Lord's favor. This is good news, whether you are blind or not. This is good news whether you're captive or not, whether you're oppressed or not. But the story ends up with Jesus being chased out of the synagogue, almost being tossed off a cliff. Why? Was it because he read a passage from Scripture? No. It's because of what he says, that release to the captive, sight to the blind, freedom to the oppressed, the news of the Lord's favor today. Today, it has been fulfilled. These folks try not to kill him. His neighbors try not to don't kill him because he read Isaiah, or because he talked about the thing they all believe about one day, but they try to throw him off a cliff because he said today. Friends, today is the day of good news. Friends, today is the day that it touches down, that it moves into the neighborhood, that it becomes flesh, that it tosses and recycles the moving boxes. Today is the year of the God's favor. Jesus tells them, universal, bonding, uniting good news. Today. Regardless of people and place and creed or whatever, there is, friends, good news today. It's in no short supply. But when we're like the folks of the synagogue, we become unwilling to hear good news because it sounds like a challenge to the bad news that we have lifted up as our shared experience. Today is Recommitment to Justice Sunday, the work of justice. What we recommit to this morning is the work of Christ. It's the call to bring this good news here today. And now people of the community can't hear it. They're in Jesus' story. The bad news is far louder. It's announced everywhere. It transforms their life into a comparison with others, a competition for the good that seems to be in short supply. And every promise is read as one day, someday. But justice is different. Justice is the good news that unites us, the good news that shows up today, that requires us to repeat it, to live it out in what we do and what we say and how we live. And so, friends, I will now invite you to search your hearts and join with me as together we recommit ourselves to the good news of God's justice. In a moment, I will ask you to stand, but for now, let us